What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the AI Marketing Stacks podcast. Today, I am here with the magisterial Mr. Alex Berman, who has done many things. He's known as a cold email expert, a software developer. He's written books like the Cold Email Manifesto, has sold multiple SaaS companies, working on one right now that we'll probably talk about called Galadon.io, which helps with AI integrations into your website. Alex is a wealth of knowledge, just anything to do with cold email, anything to do with building software companies, just a really interesting, awesome, intelligent person. So I'm really happy to have him on the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Awesome.
Magisterial. I'm going to start by not
magisterial.
asking you what magisterial means.
I've always started these interviews and I'm like, I always pick a good adjective for every person and I'm just going to make them more and more extravagant. So magisterial, for everyone, means having or showing great authority.
Good. I'll take it. Magisterial.
Okay. So let's talk. First thing I want to know is, tell me actually a little bit more about your background, how you got into cold email, how you got into building companies, and some of the exits that you've had.
Sure. I went to school in Florida. My cold email journey starts there. So I knew nobody in the big major cities, right? Like coming up, it was Silicon Valley or New York were the two cities you wanted to work in. And I knew absolutely nobody. And so I just started Googling around like, hey, if you have no connections, how do you get jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I found out that you could just email people and they respond. So I ended up just using that confidence to move to New York City and start sending cold emails. And within 2 weeks, I was able to land a job at a funded New York City-based startup. And from there, I was just sold on the idea of cold email because it was cheap. It cost nothing. I didn't need to be in the same city. And I was able to get what I wanted. From there, we used cold email to book meetings for that startup. And that did pretty well. That startup continued to grow. After that, I tried to go out on my own, sent some cold emails, ended up meeting Tom, who ran this agency called Dom & Tom in New York, who signed me on as a sales guy, did their marketing for a bit, grew their business by $1 million a year. It was 16% of their revenue. And then they made me director of marketing. And instead of taking the director of marketing job, I made them a contractor. I made them a client in my agency. And then it's all been history from there. I've been running my own company ever since. It was only until a couple of years ago when I was walking around just kind of thinking on the Las Vegas Strip, I'm like, I'm running an agency. We're making money, like revenue's coming in. Why am I not unbelievably wealthy? Like what's going on? Why am I still like thinking about money all the time? What's happening? And I got on this idea of SaaS because at the time I saw this article that was like every dollar you make in SaaS is worth $36 because SaaS companies sell at 36x multiples of their revenue. Meaning, if I work at an agency and I make $1,000 a month, I only have $1,000 or actually less because I have fees and everything. Like maybe I have $200. If at a SaaS, I make the same $1,000, that is worth $36,000 of company revenue. And so scale it up, right? $1,000 is easy, but let's say $10,000 is $360,000, $100,000 is $3.6 million. And I know how to make 100,000 a month, you know, like I know how to do that. But because I was stuck in the agency mindset, the growth mindset, my time for money just wasn't being rewarded. And so we started doing SaaS, started doing some stuff. The first one was a chatbot company called BotFuse. No customers. We sold it for $10,000 after like a few months when we knew it wouldn't work. That was another good data point because I also knew that you can sell SaaS as an asset even if it has no customers. That's crazy.
Interesting.
And then eventually I was just bored on Twitter, hanging out, bumped into this company called Tweet Hunter, hard pitched them on becoming a founder. They wouldn't let me. And so then I pitched them on doing Tweet Hunter for LinkedIn. And me and the founding team ended up inventing this tool called Taplio, which did merge with Tweet Hunter. And after 3 months, we were able to sell that for a couple $1 million. And it just goes to show the power of SaaS, bro, because I never would have done that with courses. You never would have been able to do that with agencies. It's only with something in high demand, like a software as a service business. I've never found a higher return on each dollar earned than I have with SaaS.
Yeah, that's amazing. What are some of the biggest lessons, like do's or don'ts, if someone wants to start a software company or they have a software company? What are some of the things that you've learned in the trenches?
Sure. The biggest lesson is start with a customer in mind. So for instance, with Taplio, with the LinkedIn post one, we were going after what I call linked influencers, which are people that post a lot on LinkedIn and want to make more sales or make more posts that way. So it was an AI post rewriter. We basically took the top promoting posts on LinkedIn and had an AI that would rewrite those so that you can post them on your account. Plus, it was some other stuff like it was a group that made it easy to engage with other members, so it boosted your posts up, and then some really good analytics for LinkedIn. And so with that audience in mind, it was very easy to find them. All we did was LinkedIn outreach and then also cold email to the same people that we're finding on LinkedIn. As long as you were on LinkedIn with a title like Director of Marketing, you'd be good to go. And then we added one more level, which is you're on LinkedIn, you have a title of Director of Marketing, and you have over 100,000 followers. And we gave free access to those people, and then that spread throughout their corporations, and that was our #1 acquisition channel for Taplio. So that's the #1 piece of advice. Start with an audience in mind. For Galadon, we're doing the same thing. So I said this before the call, but when we did our masterclass together recently on cold email, Galadon was just AI modals, like install AI on your website without knowing how to code. Now, over the last few months, talking to customers, we've pivoted it because I found out a lot of our customers just want more sales. They don't necessarily care about AI. So now the new functionality that we're building, about to launch on Galadon 1.1, is all AI chatbots that outperform your human reps. And when I say that, when I say, hey, I built an AI chatbot that outperformed your human reps, now you, as a director of sales, or our customer as a director of sales, is interested enough to try the product. So then my job as a marketer becomes easy. Now I just have to find as many director of sales as possible, tell them that, and then the trials and the demos will just stack up.
How do you go about, do you have a technical background?
No, I barely know how to code. I only know how to code enough to sell software.
Nice. So when you kind of came upon that realization, okay, I want to, because actually, let me preface this and tell me if I'm wrong. One thing I kind of see in the zeitgeist, right? And by zeitgeist, I mean people I follow on Twitter, is with the rise of like a lot of these no-code tools, with the rise of AI, I'm seeing a lot more people talk about getting into software, right? A lot of my marketer friends have gotten into software, and this has been going on for a while, right? It's not a new trend, but I do feel like that trend is accelerated. So, how do you approach it as someone who doesn't have a technical background? You want to create a product that you can sell. How do you go about finding the talent, structuring it, organizing it?
Sure. As easy as it is, as easy as they say it is to do no-code tools and use Bubble and like use AI to code and all this stuff, I still haven't been able to do it. I couldn't do it. It's still, I'm too boring. I just don't have a passion for coding. Even after all the no-code, doesn't matter how easy it is. So what I did instead is I used AI to map out the app as simple as possible. So what you saw on Galadon, and depending on when they're listening to it, they might still see this. You see a one feature SaaS. It is, here's an AI powered modal. You have input and you have text output. It doesn't even do PDFs, doesn't do anything like that. And then you can install it on any website with an embedded HTML. That app itself, I went to developers once I mapped that out. First, I described that to ChatGPT and I was like, map this out screen per screen. And then it mapped it out for me. Then I gave feedback, went back and forth with that one. Then I went over to Fiverr and I hired somebody to do the designs. I think it cost maybe 100 or 200 bucks based on the designs. And then once I had those finalized designs and I showed it to developers, I went to Upwork and I posted for developers there. And a bunch of them got back with all sorts of different rates. It's like one guy wanted $20,000 for the app. One guy wanted $1,200 for the app. And I had no idea how to screen them. So I went to ChatGPT again, and I just put in like, hey, here's the profile of the developers. Give me questions to ask to screen these guys. And it did come back with questions. And then when the developers came back with answers, I fed that back into GPT, and I kept going back and forth. And at the end of the day, I had it down to two guys. One guy was named Vishal, and one guy, I don't remember the name. But the other guy had a good pricing. He had everything, but he was like he was super qualified, but the price was like, let's say 2,200. And then Vishal wasn't fully qualified. He had built a lot on Bubble before, but he was very, very passionate about not just the project, but he had looked up the YouTube channel and was like watching my content and everything in the past. But he was a little more expensive. I think he was like 2,700. And so I fed that into GPT. I knew what I was going to do, but I fed it into GPT and it said 100% pick Vishal because he's going to knock it out of the park. And so I made that hire completely based on AI. And he's been working very well. I just hired him again to do the chatbot stuff. So
That's amazing.
It's been
so
very,
$2,700.
$2,700 to build out the SaaS. Yeah, to put it in perspective, my last SaaS, Omni, we were spending $13,000 per month just on development, and I think we spent over $260,000 total in a year, a little over. So it's much better to do it this way because we spent $2,500. We built our little MVP. I was able to get that pitch to our audience. We got 70 trials, and now I think we're sitting at, after a month, we're sitting at about $1,000 monthly recurring revenue, just getting these trials in, which means the SaaS is worth $36,000 if I were to sell it right now. So we've spent 3,000 and now we have 36,000. I'm not going to sell it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super cool. It makes it so so approachable, right? Okay, so then if the development, right? You actually just gave us a whole lot of amazing stuff on how to build this. If that's pretty easy, to me, it seems like the hard part is finding what is the problem. Just like you said, what's the problem? What's the specific thing? And what's a reasonable solution that the marketplace hasn't provided, or a solution that I can provide better, cheaper, faster, whatever. So how do you go about, what mental models are you using to find those problems and identify them? And then what criteria are you using to select it and be like, this is where I want to go after?
For Galadon specifically, I always want, or I want businesses that sell the shovel in a gold rush. Meaning, if everyone's trying to build a business with AI, I don't want to be another guy building a business with AI. I want to build a tool that helps you build a business with AI. That way you can jump in. So that was the mindset that I looked at. Then I was like, what are some popular tools, right now in the no code space that are letting people build their own stuff? And there's the basic stuff like Squarespace or Lead Pages, those website builders. But then there's also big no code tools like Bubble. So I was like, okay, let me build Bubble. What would that cost? And it was, $400,000 or $500,000. So I'm like, okay, let me take 10 steps back here. How do I create something that would validate me eventually building something like Bubble and do it for under $5,000? And I was able to work it down to this. Now that changes once you're in the arena, because what I found is the market for people that want to build their own AI or add AI to their website, the market is much smaller than I thought. I thought people were going to do the same math that I did, which is it's going to cost me $3,000 to integrate this AI hiring a dev, or I can just pay $99 a month to Galadon, and then I can have the AI on my website for years and years and years. But most people don't do that mental math. And so now we've had to pivot to something that's much more ROI driven. But that could only be found in the arena. I don't know. I don't know of a good way to find that just in the brainstorming part of it. I would say, actually, if you can find some way that will either make your customers money, save your customers money, or save them time, then you're going to be good to go. Although with Galadon's original purpose, we were saving them money on development and saving them time, but we weren't making them money. And so with Omni, Taplio, et cetera, we were making them money. And now with the new Galadon, we're making them money. So I would say, try to get your SaaS to make your customers an ROI, make them some money.
Okay, so let me ask you another question too. Just total spitballing. If you were to let's say you weren't doing Galadon, and you're sitting here, Mr. Alex Berman, right now, and you want to build a software tool for under $5,000. Okay, just off the top of your head, what are some different ideas or different problems you would try to tackle, or different solutions you try to offer?
So if you're thinking about making a customer money, then you're basically talking about lead generation. So finding customers or selling to those customers. So easy one would just be a lead generation database. Like, let's say you are you're an e-commerce company and you want to you want to pitch influencers. Well, you're going to go to a website like Talkfluence, et cetera, and find a list of influencers. So you could just build that, charge $40-50 a month for a list of influencers. And that's just a database. I mean, you could build that. You could even build that yourself in GPT, although I never would. So that's one. Any sort of outreach tool is also good. I was a big fan of what Omni was doing on the cold email side of things, although that's a little complicated maybe for a first step to jump into, but like Twitter outreach, Instagram outreach, maybe even something like ManyChat does, where basically you can just say like, hey, message me AI and I'll send you something special on Instagram, and then you can just build an app that would do that. Basically, think about one feature, and as long as it's one feature that has the ability to make them ROI, you should be able to do it for under $5,000. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a developer. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to find a developer that will let you build it for 5,000. I found that a lot of these developers make their prices up from nowhere. I can't figure it out. Right? There's no reason why one developer would say something's 22,000 and one developer would say it's 5,000 or it's 3,000, unless the numbers are completely made up.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. How many books have you written?
So far, we've done 3. I did Cold Email Manifesto. We did Digital Nomad Manifesto, which is all about like dating and living on the go and health. And then How to Find God, which is more about how to find God, like a reaction to the dating stuff in Digital Nomad Manifesto.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You have money, sex, and then God was the final pillar. I actually saw, and for anyone who's watching, the way that I found Alex was really, really funny, because Alex went to school with a friend of mine, and I was looking for a cold email expert. And so I went into my friend's apartment and I saw his bookshelf, and he had this book. And I don't know why I asked this question, probably because our mutual friend Jonathan just knows everyone. I was like, do you know the guy who wrote this book? And he's like, oh yeah, I went to high school with him. I think he called you maybe 5 or 6 times back to back. And then, later that day he talked to you. He's like, yep, he's in, done. But I was in his apartment the other day and I saw this book. I was like, man, this Alex guy is all over the place. He's writing this book called How to Find God. I'm kind of just curious about that though. What is your spiritual journey, or your spiritual life now, and what inspired you to write that book?
I've learned that the entire world it's magic, really. Whatever you ask for, you do get. Like similar to this, you're looking for a cold email guy. All of a sudden you find a random book that has exactly what you need, and then you find the person, and now we're talking exactly like this. And I found that this can happen a lot. I even credit the SaaS idea of going into SaaS to God, because what did I do? I turned off my phone and I went and I just walked around, randomly wandered until I had an idea, and then I doubled and tripled down on it. So I think there's really something to setting the intention, whether it's God or it's just you coding your own matrix, if you want to be the agnostic version of it. There really is something to saying something and then just living like it's true until it becomes true.
It is incredibly powerful. Incredible. And actually, what's funny is that literally was my process for finding not just you, but I also recently was like, oh, I need a YouTube expert. And I just sat and I was like, I put the intention, I'm going to find a YouTube expert. And that night, I'm in a cigar bar, somebody walks in and he's like, oh yeah, that dude just sold his company. He's like, works with a guy, who works with Mr. Beast, like just like all kinds of crazy connections like that. So yeah, that really is powerful.
My wife is full Indian, like full on Indian blood. And she really wanted a white baby. And we were like thinking like, oh, our baby's going to be half Indian. All she did every day was she printed out a picture of me as a kid and just looked at it. And our baby is like white, blue eyes, blonde hair, like impossible style. Yeah.
That's wild. So are you, when you're talking about how to find God, do you identify with any religion or spirituality?
No, and I don't think that's really important either. I think it's more about having just talking to God, really. It started actually in Digital Nomad Manifesto. When I was really wanting to find a wife, I was having trouble talking to women, and like I was scared to talk to them. And so I would pray to God and I'd be like, make it easy for me. I know that we're supposed to breed as humans, right? This is what we're supposed to be doing. So make it easy. And all of a sudden,
I don't know if breeding is the
or whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's, one thing.
No, but you're good.
So then the next day I was at an airport. I was flying out, and this girl, looked at me, like gave me the in to talk to her. And I was still too scared. I didn't do it. I wouldn't go talk to her. So then I was like ruminating on that for a couple of days. And I asked God, I'm like, bro, I know you tried to make it easy, but it's still not easy enough. You still need help. And the next day after that, I was just like standing in line, and the girl in front of me turns around and was like, hey, you have a really interesting face. Like she literally started hitting on me off the bat. And I have so much confidence in this kind of thing. I did end up married about a month after that to somebody else.
And for
But
anyone
it's
who
just
doesn't
like
know, you
praying.
just had your first, you just mentioned it, but you just had your first
Yeah, I
one.
just had my first baby, David.
Yeah.
And it's just that you can just pray for ease. And that's what I've been trying to do in business as well. Pray to make it easier, because a lot of times with entrepreneurship, really in life in general, but with entrepreneurship, it seems like we're running against the tide, or it's very hard to do everything that we're doing. And so I found that praying for ease makes it a little easier. Like, if our trials are low, I'll like pray to God for ease, and then we'll get a conversion, or like we'll get a couple trials or whatever. So I'm all in on this religion thing now.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure people have different takes and different opinions on it, but in my life, I found that is so powerful because, whether you want to say it's your particular activating system doing the work, or your subconscious, or wherever you want to draw the line and say something is working. Personally, I've noticed an amazing effect when you set your intentions, when you're clear on what it is that you want, when you ask for things, and you have the belief, right? If you have the belief that things can be easy and things can be simple. I think it was Tim Ferriss, or who I heard this from. I don't think it's his quote, but basically one of the questions someone asks is like, what will this look like if it was easy? Like, how could I make this easier?
Yeah.
And just the other day, for instance, I went through my whole to-do list, and I usually break down my to-do list into stuff that I'm going to delegate and stuff that I feel like I have to do, right? Because I have to do it. And then I was looking at it the other day, and I asked myself, if like a genie came down tomorrow and was like, Luke, this week you're not allowed to work. This is your Sabbath week. You can't work. How would I get this stuff done? And I was like, instantly, my idea, I was like, oh, I could delegate that. I could delegate that. I could do this. I could do that. I could do that. And then also, like you said, just setting the intention, where I'm like, I need this person, and just waiting for that person. I think it's very powerful.
It's real on to-do lists too. There's always a win-win. There's always a solution. Like for me, I was having a really hard time filming YouTube videos because we have to do 3 a week. And I was talking about, whatever. I was having a hard time doing it. And I was having a hard time doing my tasks to grow Galadon because we have this new baby. And then I was like, what if I just document me doing the tasks? And that's the YouTube videos. So I was like, 10 new cold emails to try. And it's just me writing cold emails for Galadon, or like how to do LinkedIn outreach. And it's just me doing LinkedIn outreach for Galadon. So yeah, the more you think about it, there's always an easy solution to turn the hard tasks into something that's fun.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, that's living, the phrase I use, it's living in possibilities, right? Because if you're very attached to the way you want things to be, to the way you think it should be, hard, difficult, it needs to look like this, it needs to be like that, it holds you back so much, And what's amazing is like the idea that you could just go into ChatGPT and be like, hey, give me this website, go to Fiverr, hey, design this, and go here. And then, all you're doing is you're just talking to ChatGPT and interviewing these people. It's so powerful. But if that's not a reality in people's minds, if that's not a possibility, if they don't have that self-belief, that's what's holding people back. It's not the tools, it's not the capabilities,
Yeah, you can do anything. I remember I showed ChatGPT to my mom, and she wasn't thinking business at all. All she thought about was, I can use this to write song lyrics, because she wanted to be a singer. And I showed it to my stepdad, and he didn't think song lyrics or business. He thought, I can use this to write Tom Clancy style novels. And then he started writing his novels. So it is really like, we all have the same tool, and it's all about how you use it. And it's not just about GPT, but it's everything in life.
Yeah. What other sort of trends do you see in marketing and or AI?
What other sort of trends do we see? So I think there's a lot of people that are mad about AI and are like very doubtful about AI. So for instance, with Galadon, we're selling AI chatbots, right? The first thing people are going to say if they have a successful sales team is, what if this doesn't perform as well as my sales team? And so the thing that we built into Galadon for that reason is you can actually monitor the chats happening, and if your guys want to jump in at any time, they can stop the AI and jump right in. So I think that trend is going to continue, meaning anyone that's worried about AI needs to have some kind of stopgap or some way to stop it. Two, I also think everyone's going to start building their own AIs long term. ChatGPT is only the beginning of this. You know, Google has their own AI, but there are also, they're called large language models that you can download on Reddit, and you can just host them on AWS, and you can train your own AI for like 10K, and that's only going to get cheaper and cheaper. You know, maybe it'll be 500. Maybe everyone will have their own AI. There's even versions of the large language model that can just run on your MacBook without the need for internet at all. So I think more and more people are going to be moving away from ChatGPT. ChatGPT is kind of like the Ask Jeeves or the Yahoo of this whole
Ask Jeeves. That's a
yeah.
That's
it's
a
more
throwback.
like the Ask Jeeves than the Yahoo. So that's a big trend. I think everyone's going to be jumping on the AI thing. I don't think AI is going away. I don't think it's like NFTs. NFTs blew up and died so hard. I was shocked because I was all in on NFTs too. But I think AI is a more powerful movement than something like NFTs. So if we can get ahead of it, I mean, you have to. You literally have to. You know, I've seen my friends that are artists. Literally every day they would draw on their iPads, and then she stopped using it. She's like, "Oh, I see what DALL-E can do. It can do the same thing that I can do at the same quality. Like, I'm not even going to draw anymore. I'm going to try to do something else." And so you're going to see a lot more of that in all fields. Creatives used to feel safe. You know, it used to be like, "Oh, AI can sell better, but will it paint a portrait?" And now it actually looks like it can paint a portrait better than it can sell.
True. Yeah. So if someone is in marketing and they're worried about AI, or let's say they're not worried about it, let's say they're excited about it, or, you know, however they feel about it, what would you recommend to somebody, either a skill to develop, a field to enter? What can they do to take advantage of what's happening, and then also to sort of protect themselves in the long term?
I would think about how to use AI to take what you do to the next level. So just spend a few minutes every day talking to ChatGPT. Like, put yourself in front of the AI and see what it can do. If you're an author, give it a pitch for a chapter and see how it does. If you're a coder, give it a pitch for coding a website. Just start using it as an assistant, and from there the ideas should flow naturally. Anything that anybody does can be taken over by AI, and if you can build a software that helps that, then you can make money there. So I would do that. You know, similar to it reminds me so much of when apps came out. I was in New York City. The agency I was working at, we were selling software when apps first came out, and all these big businesses wanted applications, and they were spending $200,000-$300,000 on these mobile apps. But now, if you look at the App Store, all those apps are dead. You know, it was just like a bubble that happened. But there's a lot of money to be made there. There's a lot of money to be made in these businesses that are hearing about AI, and want to be involved in some way. So any sort of applications or services or coaching or courses or anything around how to enter the AI market are going to do really well.
Powerful. Where can people find out more about you, what you're up to?
Sure. We've got a ton of free content over at youtube.com/Alex Berman. Or if you want to learn everything, I've got all my tool recommendations and everything up on the site, alexberman.com.
Nice. Love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and giving all your competitors free game so they can go and start their own Galadon.
Sure. If you want to start your own Galadon, at least trial it first. You know, go to galadon.io, pay me $100, you can steal my business.
Perfect. All right, bro. Thank you so much for being on, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Cool. Bye, Luke.
Bye, bro. Peace.